If you're getting a cab to an airport to go on holiday, there are certain things that you would do, and there would be things that were just a given that you would expect. You would have booked your cab ahead. You don't book it on the morning of your flight, and you'd have your bags packed ready. You'd expect the cab to be on time. You'd expect the car to be comfy and to be suitable for the journey, the driver to be qualified. You'd be surprised if you had to fill up with fuel on the way to the airport. You'd be surprised if they changed driver on the way to the airport. You'd expect them to take the quickest and most direct route. And you'd expect some communication, how are the roads, are there any problems at the airport and all that sort of stuff. And you'd hope that they know where you're going, what time you're supposed to be there, and why. So why, on something even more important than getting a flight on holiday, the selling of your house, do a lot of people not even do any of that preparation and do any of that work and make sure that the person taking them ticks most of those boxes? So today we're talking about conveyancing, dare I say it, the M25 of the conveyancing world. And I have with me one of my favourite cab drivers, Robert Habbitts of Bates. Robert, welcome to the Sunday Property Breakfast.
Afternoon, Adrian. Hello, everybody.
So I should actually get you to properly introduce yourself, because unless you've got a career that I am unaware of, earning a clandestine income to supplement your meagre conveyancer's wages, you should actually let people know exactly who you are.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. As Adrian said, I'm Robert from Bates Solicitors. Robert Habbitts at Bates Solicitors. Hello.
And just so you know, we've known each other for a while, but we've worked together since I set the business up. You're one of the people I recommend for the reasons we're going to discuss, that you just get it done in what is a difficult world. So starting with and I'm going to drop the holiday driving analogy eventually, but just starting with that point, in the same way you'd pack your bags, why should a vendor prepare for selling before they've even found their buyer?
Well, as you said, Adrian, conveyancing is the sort of the M25, the clog, the blockage that is sort of the house selling and house moving process. And people don't wake up one morning and decide they're going to go on holiday. Some people might do, but the same as people don't wake up one morning and realize they're going to sell their house. So obviously you give it thought, you decide to stage your property, you decide to get the agents around to value it. But it's amazing how many people don't think, oh, I need a lawyer to do the work as well. And they leave that to the last minute. Whereas if you actually get engaged with the lawyer at the outset, a lot of the ID can be done, a lot of the paperwork can be completed. If there's things missing, you can get your boiler serviced, you can get that duplicate certificate that you need, you can get things in place. I mean, I read an article the other day that said, according to Rightmove, that average conveyancing times from the moment a property is agreed with the agent to the moment the people get the keys and move in is 150 days at the moment.
Yeah,
that's
I see 130, 150, 160, depending on the time of the week.
It's absolutely crazy.
But and that should point out, isn't from when something goes on the market unsold. This is from when, if you lose terminology, a deal is agreed and the sale is agreed to go ahead. So a crazy figure. I know when you're selling what I'd call a straightforward freehold house, I say this to my vendors because I try and get every single vendor legally prepared. They don't always follow, but the vast majority do. And of course, most of them turn around and say, yeah, but I've got a straightforward freehold house. I haven't got a 16th century barn where the hunter are allowed to go through on the quarter days. So why is it really that complicated? But you know from conveyancing that a straightforward property can still have
there isn't
documentation missing.
There is not anything such as a straightforward house. Every house, you could have 5 houses on the same development down the same road. Think of Coronation Street. You could have all those houses being sold exactly the same time. Every single house, one of those, would have a problem with something.
And it's not necessarily its legal entity, but its documentation,
Yep.
Its damp-proof course,
exactly.
It's
Boiler
electrics,
servicing, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So you've touched on it really. How does somebody prepare?
Basically, as soon as you think of even getting the agent round, or once you've sort of assigned the agent to put the for sale sign up, get in contact with your lawyer.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be me. I would like it to be me, but get in contact with your lawyer. Get those things prepared. Find out what the quotations are going, like you would do building works or your estate agencies. Find out the reviews. Talk to people. Talk to your neighbours. Talk to friends and family. People that have been through the process. The conveyancing process has changed so much in the last 20, 30 years. I've been doing it now for 12 years. In those 12 years, a lot of things have changed. And I think if you haven't done it for the last 10 years, speak to people and find out what it is, and then get your quotes, find out who you like. Just because you might not be the most expensive or the cheapest, can that person be contactable? What is your criteria for having that relationship? That person is representing you in the biggest sale and purchase of your life. We're not all multi-billionaires that have super yachts. Your house is your biggest purchase, more likely than not.
Yeah. And I think the point you make is good, that talk to people who've moved. I think a great question is, would you use the same solicitor? A bit like, would you use your agent again?
Yeah.
And so that's a key question. I think if an agent recommends a solicitor, I think a very genuine question to ask, which I know somebody could ask me with yourself and anybody else I recommend, is, do you get paid for that recommendation? Because there is then already, even if that solicitor is actually really, really good, there's already another reason for doing that intro. And I can genuinely say, I only pass business to Robert and other solicitors who I know are going to get things done for me, and obviously for the owners and the buyers.
Yeah. And
in terms of the physical preparation, then if I was a vendor and I said, I've just instructed Adrian to sell my house, he's told me to give you a call, thank you for your quote, he recommends you, I think it's a good idea. Presumably you just say to them, what do I need? What do you need from me to sell my house?
Exactly. So I would then open the matter up on the case management system that most conveyancers will have. And then as the seller, we would send you all the various property information forms, which are bundles of documentation prepared by the Law Society, tick box forms, also the terms of business from the individual lawyer, the client care letter setting out the fees and explaining who we are and what we're doing, and basically send that to you saying, there it is, you complete that, get it back to us when you're ready.
How much time, I know there's no such thing as an average, but how much time would that save compared to somebody who says, Adrian's been marketing my house, we've now found a buyer, I want to instruct you, Robert, what do you need from me to sell my house?
I would say you would be saved, if you did that before the memorandum of sale was agreed and things like that and the offer was agreed, you'd be saving yourself about 2 weeks.
The other thing I would add to that is what you do with that delay is not only lose 2 weeks, but you lose all the momentum. So you've tried to encourage somebody to make an offer, an acceptable offer, and be in a position to buy that house. And you've concluded that on a Monday afternoon. What you want is for that contract to be going out on the Wednesday, Thursday.
Absolutely.
I'm not expecting it to go out on the Tuesday morning. No. We all have other commitments to do, but you'd expect it to go the Wednesday, the Thursday. Not 2 weeks later. That buyer has lost all the impetus, we wouldn't put pressure on people. We'd say to if you're going to buy this, be serious about it. And we try and get our buyers to buy professionally. For a month or two, they are buying that house as part of their job and part of their life. If the contract hasn't come out 2 weeks, you've lost all of that momentum. So
exactly. I mean, I've had
2 weeks and then you lose momentum in the sale.
I've had cases recently where I've been waiting for contract papers to come in and the mortgage offers arrived beforehand. So the lender's actually gone round and valued the property before anybody's actually sent me any paperwork.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So we've got the preparation done. We've talked about this. Every agent and conveyancer has talked about this for the last 3 years. And we've said, the conveyancing system is rubbish, partly because of its antiquity, but also because, it's post-COVID and there's, 1.5 million sales in a year rather than the normal million, 1.1. The resources are low because people are off with COVID and people have left the industry. We've now got a situation where volume levels are actually a little bit below normal, but they're not much below what a normal would be of around £1 million sales a year. And we've got no great absenteeism through COVID. So those excuses have gone, and yet I don't see any change in the speed with your typical conveyance. Why do you think that is, Mr. Conveyancing Oracle?
If I had the answer to that, I would not be sitting here. I think it's, as you said, the system is antiquated, and it's the system that we've got. There's not a lot that can be done to change it. We are a very paper-based and very heavy process-driven procedure. However, having said that, I mean, you've mentioned staff shortages because of COVID, people being off long-term sick, etc. There has actually been an article produced by the Law Society recently that said that in the last 20 to 30 years, there are 50% less available conveyancers now than there were this time 30 years ago.
Wow.
So yes, you might not have the same amount of volume of matters going through, but you've got less staff there to do it. So if you say on average there could be 5 million house sales a year, and there were 300,000 conveyancers to do that work, obviously do the maths. Now you've got 5 million a year and there's only 150,000 conveyancers.
And I think your industry suffers from the same problems in the estate agency industry, that there are, and agents work in different ways to be the best agent they can. and we work in a more personal, less transactional business. But there are some very good agents who are very transactional, and they charge what I would say is a proper fee for a proper service. But there are other agents who will remain nameless, who charge a very low fee because there is a perception that, well, you just bung it on the portals and it sells. We all know there's an awful lot more to it than that. Oh, that it was that simple. And I think the same issue is within conveyancing, that there is a feeling that most houses are straightforward. They aren't 16th century barns in the middle of the country with easements and rights of way, and therefore a conveyance can be done cheap. And I think your industry has suffered that you're a proper solicitors firm, modernised, but you're a proper firm charging what I'd call as a proper fee for considering what you are buying for somebody, their most important asset. And yet you're countered by people doing it online for
£90 plus VAT.
Yeah, and I know there are often quite
add-ons and things
add-ons,
like that, exactly.
But it's still, and I think your industry is affected by that. And I think as a result of that, you are paid less.
Yes,
both as individuals. But you don't tell me what you're paid. I think you're paid less than your counterpart would have been 30, 40 years ago.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Pro rata.
There has been a race to the bottom,
and that needs to change.
The service has suffered because of that, and that is one of the other problems as well.
Yeah, and I would advocate this from my side of the story, that you get what you pay for with your agent. You absolutely get what you pay for with your conveyancer. So we're not going to solve that problem overnight, although we will talk later about a
maybe over a drink behind the bar.
Yes. While we're recording this, you may be watching this on catch up at some way down the line when you realise what gems we talk about. But I'm right in the middle of Stoptober right now, and I cannot believe that Jack has put us behind a bar. Thanks a lot for that one, Jack.
I'll pay you later, Jack. Yeah. Brilliant.
So, given all the problems you have in trying to keep this mechanism moving and quick, what's the best way for a client, once they've instructed you and they've given you all your paperwork and the wheels have started rolling, what is the best way for them to deal with you and to communicate with you?
I pride myself on giving my clients decent and effective communication. And that doesn't mean you're going to hear from me every day, every other day, but it does mean that when you hear from me, there is some news. I'm not one of those lawyers that sits there, writes an email one day, "Dear Mr. Jones, nothing to report, be in contact next week." And then a couple of days later, "Dear Mr. Jones, still nothing to report." That wastes time. It doesn't do anything, and it just annoys people. The best way for somebody to get in contact with me is to either email, telephone, not WhatsApp, because obviously we don't have work mobiles and we don't like to give personal numbers out, but communication is so key, and to be on top of things and to be aware of what the situation is. So it might not just be the client that I speak to, it'll be the estate agent, it will be the surveyor, it might be an agent further up or down the chain. Communication is so vital, and I find that if you're one of those lawyers that doesn't communicate with anybody, or one of those agents that doesn't communicate with anybody, people get so annoyed because it's a stressful process. I've been through it myself. It's horrible when you don't know what's going on, but if you let one person know, as long as that information remains accurate and gets filtered through, everybody's happy. And
presumably, not just communication, but also an expectation of when something might change.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for such and such. You probably won't hear until Friday.
Exactly.
And that is, I think, one of the biggest things
I've ordered your search results. The return time is next Monday. I'll be in contact if that changes, and I'll be in contact when it's arrived. Thank you very much.
I also realise I'm obviously in a very privileged position because I do have your WhatsApp number.
You do have my WhatsApp.
So if anybody is struggling with their conveyance with Robert, let me know, and I can provide you with his WhatsApp number. And what's the best way? It sounds like it's probably a similar question and a similar answer. What's the best way for an agent to work with you, or indeed, what's the worst way for an agent to work with a solicitor?
You mentioned it earlier with the fact that there are agents that do certain things to a certain fee, and shall we say they're the shiny suit tassel shoe brigade, shiny suit.
Easy for you to say, yeah.
Shiny suit.
Have you been drinking?
Tasseled shoe brigade. I wish. And they phone up every other day. Has there been any development? Has there been any development? Well, no. If there had been, I would have told you. And all that's doing is delaying the work on, not necessarily other matters, but is delaying the work that needs to get done.
So lack of knowledge and understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And dare I say it, I know one other person I speak to quite a lot says there is one particular agent they deal with, and all they phone up about is, can you let me know when the revised exchange date is, so they can put it into their own sort of cash flow systems, which is pretty dreadful thing. So, wearing a sort of a superior position of how can we how can we change this if we had that ability? I've got something in mind that I've just been recently discussing with a company. But are there thoughts that you've got on how you could change things in the shortish term, or indeed in the longer term?
There has been talk recently, and I say recently, in the last 10 years, which is recent for the legal industry.
Yes,
you probably agree.
Yeah, there is actually still a conveyance on your desk from 10 years ago.
There has been talk of e-conveyancing.
Okay.
Whereby things are sped up via either a law society e-conveyancing portal. I mean, you read one article and it says one thing, you read another article, it says completely something else.
Okay.
But we are in an age now with portals, AI, etc., that there could be, and there should be, I think, a way that the conveyancing process in this country can be dragged into the 21st century.
What about the idea of HIPs? But I think I wasn't dealing with it at the time, and I think you were
before my time.
Scarily too young to be dealing with it. Or you were doing something else. You were still a cab driver before then.
I was moonlighting.
Can you see the need for a return to some of that basic information that a seller provides?
I think so, yes. I mean, the home information pack, the HIPs, were on paper a good idea, just never worked in practice. I don't know why, because it was just before my time. However, some of the remnants that we've got, like the energy performance certificates, EPCs, the idea that the seller completes a property information form, gives details about the property, that's what we do now. It's just gone from being in one document to being several documents. And I think that sort of, shall we say, a logbook for your car. You take your car for a service, you get your piece of paper, or you used to, you put that in your file, and then when you came to sell your car, you would say, I've got a full service history, there you go. And somebody would go, thanks a lot, I'll read through that, I'll tire kick the cars, it's all in order. Why don't we do that for a house?
Yeah, it's logical to me. I with not working in the industry at that part of it at the time, I don't know why it failed. I don't know if it was poorly prepared or just people were adverse to the idea of some sort of collective homogeny of the things you do. I would imagine that a lot of people in your industry are very different now to how they would have been years ago when HIPS was introduced. Can I throw an idea at you? That I've been talking to recently with a company who are and possibly working through Keller Williams and working with us to help develop it, and with us personally actually through a connection that my colleague Candice knows. They're looking at what I would describe as a hub of transparency.
Okay.
So everybody involved in a sale, so obviously buyer, seller, any of the agents involved in that. It may just be, if it's a simple sale of one house to one person, it could just be one agent, but there could be other agents involved if there's more of a chain, both lawyers or every lawyer involved. And then after that, you then start to get the surveyor. And I said to them, they didn't realise, I said, actually, the removal company right towards the end of the transaction can become quite a key part of timings and dates for, when the legals are sorted, let's try and agree exchange and completion dates. They are critical parts of that. And all the sub-surveys and other service providers. How do you think, and not you personally, because I know you'd be happy to be transparent, but how do you think the industry would take to this idea that everybody is connected, not to see personal information and confidential information, but to see key documents that
see
should
where
be there,
things are, so to speak,
and to see where the responsibility lies for the next steps that are being taken?
I think it would certainly sort the wheat out from the chaff. I think you would find that there would be some conveyancers and some probably even estate agents that pay a lot of lip service to things and don't get scrutinised on what they're actually saying.
Blame culture?
Potentially.
Oh, it's there. We're waiting for that.
It's not
we're waiting for somebody else.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think you would sort out a lot of that if there was sort of a algorithm or a portal that sort of did things. And I also think it would be useful to actually have that sort of, rather than sending 5 emails to one solicitor or to you and then report to the client and things like that, you would have one platform that everything gets uploaded to. You send the link saying, dear Mr. Client, your report's ready, download it. Yeah.
Because one of the offshoots of that hub idea is that if I have then just been instructed by a couple to sell their house, I can immediately just ping something on that same portal to you and the other lawyers who are in the area wanting to deal with that, and immediately get, the vendor, or in future the buyer, immediately gets quotes for surveys, lawyers, and anything else that's particular to that particular property. I think that is, from a techie point of view, don't know how long that's going to take. They tell me they are only a few months away from having something that could be workable. I think they would need to get a volume of business quite quickly for it to be a really workable solution. But I think you're absolutely right. If anybody wants to be accountable and transparent, if you don't want to be, well, you shouldn't be in the industry, or you shouldn't be working for people if you're not able to provide a service and you're hiding behind things.
Yeah.
Robert, we could talk about this for a long time. We've talked about it a lot previously when
People have probably
frustrations of no, they haven't. They always watch every single second of the podcast. Thank you for that. It's really useful insight. I think whether it be right at the beginning, getting yourself prepared, how to talk to you, how to get the best out of all the people involved in the process, and hopefully a future that will make this system just a little bit more efficient and more effective. I hope another of our podcasts has been of use and of interest to you. Conveyancing may not be the most exciting thing, but it's probably my biggest bugbear in the industry, and something that if we can just resolve it a little bit each month, each year, and make it a little bit better, then it would make everything an awful lot easier in the business. Thanks again for watching the Sunday Property Breakfast. It's been a delight to have you, Robert.
Pleasure.
You can come back and talk about something else. I think actually you've got a fare coming in the next 5 minutes, so you better get it away.
Now.
But thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Dee Shepherd from SMJ Media Group. If you like what we do and if you enjoyed what you heard today, then please do continue to support us. Support us in our conversations, in our events, in our communication, and how we publish and how we promote all local businesses. So, how do you do that? Well, you can buy me a coffee. Where? buymeacoffee.com/SMJ Media Group.